Hey everybody, thanks for joining in. Tonight we're going to do something a little fun. Not really something that expecting to find any big time cards, but we're going to open up a box of Stadium Club 1992 Series 3. So the two cards that I'm actually interested in looking for in this box are cards of players who I'm not sure if that either one of them ever played in the major leagues. We are looking for one of my all-time favorite baseball players, Terrel Hansen, who I got to know in AAA, as well as Mike Walkden, who has a very interesting card because it looks like he's levitating. So we're going to have some fun opening up these packs. Terrell Hansen actually became one of my favorite players when he was in AAA with the Mets, playing for the Tidewater Tides at the time. Um, and he actually did get the final hit at their stadium at Park. I actually was given the bat where he got the last hit. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where I can't prove it. It was the final hit bat, but it is something that I know, and it's something that I'll always treasure. And so, because of that, Terrell Hansen has actually become one of my favorite all-time baseball players. He got traded in that offseason from the Mets to the Expos, and the Ottawa Lynx opened up against the Tides, and he also got the first hit at the new park, Harbor Park. So that's a little bit of trivia there. It's kind of neat that playing for two teams, he got the final hit at one stadium and the first hit at the next. So let's start opening up and see what we can find. Stadium Club is known for having some of the best pictures, very high quality cards. Unfortunately, in this particular season, 1992, there weren't a lot of top rookies, and in Series 3, obviously, they were starting to get down to some of the lesser known players, a lot of obscure names. Um, we are going to start off, though, with Jeff Bagwell, Member's Choice. Uh, Eric Hillman, who never liked him. He was one of the tallest pitchers. He was compared to Randy Johnson, but nowhere near the talent. Um, so he was never one of my favorites. Ron Darling, one of my favorites playing for the Mets. Troy Afner, Jim Lindemann, another guy that I got to see play for the Tides a lot. You'll hear me reference the Tides because I used to go to all of their games getting autographs back in the early 90s. So I did get to meet a lot of players back then. So a lot of these guys in this series are going to be people that I've seen play quite a bit, even though most people may have no idea who they are. Willie Randolph, Scott Chipperino, sorry, Tom Edens, another guy played for the Tides. Glenn Davis, who also was playing in a rehab assignment maybe that year, playing at Norfolk and got in a bar fight, and that pretty much ended his career. Steve Howe, Mr. Cocaine. So, a lot of familiar names in that pack for me. Kirk Dressendorfer, a guy that everybody had high hopes for, never panned out. Arthur Rhodes had a pretty solid career, hard-throwing lefty. Barry Bonds, Member's Choice. Mark Langston. Paul Gibson, a guy who always kind of creeped me out when he played, but for absolutely no reason. Phil Plantier, another guy who very highly touted, just never lived up to expectations. Biff Roberts, Reggie Sanders, who had a pretty solid career, but I thought he was going to be much more of a star than he ended up being. Greg Maddux, probably one of the better names in this series. Stadium Club like Upper Deck is one of those sets where they just put the cards in all kinds of crazy positions. Gary Carter, the kid, one of my all-time favorites. Hated to see him leave the Mets. John Wayner. Bobby Bonilla, Member's Choice. It's Bobby Bonilla, as the Met fans know him as. Sid Fernandez, a hard-throwing lefty who did really good for the Mets. Candyman. Danny Tartabull, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated hitters in the late 80s, early 90s. One of the things I love about going back to some of the old packs and old junk era wax boxes, you get to see a lot of names you just haven't heard in a long time. And there he is, my friend Terrel Hansen. So that makes me excited to get that one. I've always wanted one of his cards and never really collected cards too much in 92, so I just didn't luck out getting that. So I'm very excited to finally get his card. Jack Morris, a forgotten Hall of Famer. Wilson Alvarez, another guy who had a really good start to his career and just kind of fizzled and didn't have the career everybody thought. Believe he had a lot of injury issues, if I remember correctly. And Alan Trammell, again, one of the more underappreciated players. Trammell and Whitaker, one of the best middle infield duos in my lifetime. Kirk Gibson on the Pirates. Seems weird seeing him there. Ed Nunez. Doc Gooden, one of my all-time favorites. One of my favorite names in baseball, Archie Cianfrocco. One of the first players I ever got a chance to really know in baseball. I started watching him in the '85 World Series, Brett Saberhagen. One of the best moments of my life was when he played in an exhibition game coming down to play against the Norfolk Tides. I got a chance to meet him and get his autograph, so that was quite exciting for me in my younger years. Bob Walk, every time I see this card, I feel like he's having a stroke in this picture. And Keith Miller, another guy I really liked, one of those obscure players on your favorite team that you just like for some reason. You really can't explain it, you just really like him. Bill Swift was a guy who had a solid career. Jeff McKnight. Zane Smith. And there's Bo. I love that card. I love that picture. It makes him look so much younger than he really was, but he looked like a little kid. There's Rodney McRae, who is famous for running through an outfield wall in the minor leagues. It was really funny watching so many of these obscure players who ended up playing for the Tidewater Tides, later now known as the Norfolk Tides. Just so fun seeing so many of those minor leaguer players that you just knew but really didn't get a lot of exposure. There's the kid, Ken Griffey Jr., member's choice. Kevin McReynolds, another guy that I really loved when he played for the Mets. Ooh, I lucked out and got two promo cards. Another Phil Plantier. Would have thought I'd struck gold back in '92 if I'd opened up the pack and found him. Another Ken Griffey Jr. Member's Choice card. And then Kevin Mitchell. I'd forgotten he played for the Mariners. And Randy Johnson. So that would have been a pack I would have flipped to open back in '92. Still probably one of the better packs that you're going to open up in this set. At 25% of the way through, I have gotten half of my goal of getting the Terrel Hansen card. Still have not gotten a Mike Walkden. Another Kevin McReynolds. Tom Henke, who was a solid closer for the Blue Jays. Another guy that I got to see a lot, pitch a lot for the Tides was Julio Valera. Another Gary Carter. Roger McDowell. And another Candyman. Robin Yount, Member's Choice. Pat Listash, who I thought was going to be a strong Hall of Fame candidate. Jose Rijo, who was another underappreciated pitcher. Ricky Henderson, all-time leading base stealer, of course. And probably the biggest name other than possibly Ricky Henderson in this set is the man himself, Nolan Ryan. Another Danny Tartabull. And another Wilson Alvarez. So overall, I would say this box is a pretty good box considering there's not a lot of stars in this particular series. Not even halfway through, still have got a pretty decent stack of stars and favorite players. So this would be a pack that a box that I'd really say is pretty good so far. Jeff Manto's another guy I got to see play a few times down in Norfolk. One thing I will say about Stadium Club that I really enjoy is the fact that they didn't have wax in their packs, and so you don't really have any wasted cards when you open them up. So here's Howard Johnson, who probably was my favorite position player growing up as a young Mets fan. Mr. 30-30 himself. Andre Dawson, who I hated when he played against the Mets because it just seemed he always did something special against the Mets. Kevin Seitzer, another guy that I really enjoyed watching when I first started watching baseball. And Don Pribolinski, another one of my favorite names in baseball. Didn't have much of a career, but still one of the favorite names. And then back to back, we have Ozzie Smith and Tony Gwynn, two of the best players in the 80s, one the best, possibly the best hitter and the best defender. I did get a chance to see Ozzie Smith play a few times in St. Louis, so that was kind of neat. Probably one of the best players I ever got a chance to see play. Did see Greg Maddux pitch, so obviously he's probably the best player I've seen. Chuck Knobloch. Jeff Ennis, who unfortunately recently passed. Been dealing with cancer and unfortunately lost his battle. Never was one of my favorite players when he pitched for the Mets, but always sad to see guys lose their life too early, especially for cancer. It's definitely something I can say that cancer sucks. Joe Baber. Greg Swindell. Greg Vaughn, one of those guys we thought everybody thought was going to be a mega star, and then just never panned out. Ended up being a decent but solid, but nowhere near a star. Denny Martinez, a guy who was really good back in the day and just seems to be forgotten. Sandy Alomar, another one of those players everybody thought was going to be a mega superstar, just didn't pan out. Another Alan Trammell. Bill Wegman. Jeff Ballard. Jeff Branson. Mike Witt. Frank Viola, another guy I really enjoyed watching pitch for the Mets. Sad when he left them. David Wells had a really long, underappreciated career. Rex Hudler, who was a really good middle infielder. David Segui. And Lance Dixon, another prospect that a lot of people had high hopes for, just couldn't live up to the expectations. It seemed to be one of those things, may happen less now today, but it still happens, but it seemed to happen a lot in the early 90s of players just not living up to expectations. There's Barry Bonds again. George Bell, another hitter who possibly fringe Hall of Famer. Dave Winfield. Actually got a chance to meet him at a baseball clinic one time, and that was really neat. One of my favorite first names in baseball, Storm. And speaking of meeting a baseball clinic, actually it's wrong, Greg Olson. I thought that was the pitcher when I saw the name. But I met Greg Olson, the pitcher, also at the same baseball clinic. May have been a different year. George Brett. Joe Slusarski, another fun name to say. And speaking of fun names to say, Scott Campanecki. Von Hayes, Tom Browning. I always love when you see pitchers on cards where they're hitting. Bill Pacoda, Aguilera, the X-Man Xavier Hernandez, and Doug Jones, hard-throwing closer. So halfway through, we have gotten Terrel Hansen, but no Mike Walkden yet. But have pretty much all the rest of the big-time players. And we got another Terrel Hansen. And Brett Saberhagen in the same pack. Dave Burba had a few solid years with the Giants. Darryl Kyle, another one of those players we lost too soon to tragedy. And Keith Miller, once again. Another Kirk Gibson in Pirates uniform. Another Doc Gooden. And another Bo Jackson. Speed up a little bit going through these here because I don't want this to be too long of a video. Tony Pena, another guy who always seemed to be a Met killer to me. Phil Plantier was a favorite card to put in this box. Jeff McKnight again. That's at least 3 Phil Plantiers. Francisco Cabrera, who is known for getting the game-winning hit to beat the Pirates in the playoffs. Ron Gant, who was a pretty solid player. Eric Davis, who everybody thought was going to be a legend until he just got injury prone. Even watching him back in the 80s when I did, I never realized how fast he was. But he was lightning quick. There's Barry Bonds. Again. There's Greg Maddux. Again, like I said, I had a chance to watch him pitch against Bob Tewksbury, and it was the kind of game you expected to see. Very low scoring. One of the best pitch games I ever watched at any level. Randy Myers, another one of my favorite players. Wally Joyner. Kenny Lofton, one of the greatest center fielders of all time. Jody Reed, who's another guy I really liked watching play, even though he played for a team I couldn't stand. Jody Reed and Mike Greenwell, even though I could not stand the Red Sox, I loved watching them play. And there's the other Nolan Ryan, the member's choice Ryan. Bill Pulsifer, another guy, speaking of expectations that weren't met. Just Generation K for the Mets, all three of them. None of them lived up to hype. Isringhausen had a pretty good career as a closer, but not as the starting pitcher that everybody thought he was going to dominate as. And then the third one, obviously, was Paul Wilson, who just had nothing but injuries and derailed his career from what could have been. Really, all three of them had injuries. And there is Mike Walkden. Finally got the levitating unknown. So I would say that this is an absolute success box of getting all the players I wanted here. So very excited to have that Walkden. I was starting to wonder if I was going to get shut out with him. Another Jeff Bagwell member's choice, Eric Hillman. So even though I don't like him, I want to pull him out. Don't know why. All right, so 3/4 of the way in, we got a pretty decent stack of cards of stars and guys I like. I didn't even pull out them all, so I'd say that, again, this is, even though we're nowhere near done, this is actually a very successful box. May not get the value of what I paid for it out of it, but all in all, still a good box. Oh, Mark Dewey. There's a guy, I forgot he was in the set. He was also a guy that I enjoyed watching pitch for the Tides. Gary Sheffield. Sammy Sosa. Darren Reed, another guy who I really loved when he was with the Mets. I really hoped he'd do better than he actually did. Forgot he was in this set as well. And Greg Jeffries, who all Mets fans hoped would be the dominant star for the Mets, ended up being a pretty good all-star for the Cardinals, but again, just like the theme of the night, just didn't live up to expectations. It still ended up having a pretty solid career. And we have a third Ken Griffey Jr. member's choice. So again, that was a really good box. Randy Johnson. It's one thing with Tops and Stadium Club, it's no exception. All the players are in there in a sequence. So when you see one, you know you're going to see another, because there's Bip Roberts and Reggie Sanders, just like I knew was coming. But still, seeing Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson in the same pack is always exciting. Especially would have been really exciting back in the day. Another Kevin McReynolds. So I think we're starting to get to the point where we're seeing a lot of the same players over and over again. And in Stadium Club, with it having been broken down into 3 series, even though there were a ton of cards in the set, there were actually 900 cards in the 92 set. However, being broken down into 3 series, there's only 300 cards in that series, so you are going to see a lot of duplicates when you open up a box like this. But that doesn't make it any less fun. Robin Yount again. Ricky Henderson again. And another Nolan Ryan. Just like finding the 2 legends in the same pack last time. Another Danny Tartable. 5 more packs to go to see if we can get another Walkden or Another Terrel Hansen to make me happy tonight. Another Howard Johnson Member's Choice. Howard Johnson's one of those players I've gotten a chance to really interact with on Twitter. Twitter is one of those things that's made it fun to get to interact with some of the players you never would have access to. And a lot of the older guys they love interacting with their fans, and they may not be in the spotlight as much, and so they appreciate it even more. But another Ozzy and Tony Gwynn, but it's still fun nonetheless to, even though you may not be friends with them, but to be able to get some recognition and be noticed by guys you idolized as a teen is always exciting. If you had any success stories of talking to your favorite players, please share them in the comments. I love reading other stories as well. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. I've got a lot more that I'm going to be opening up. I've got a lot of boxes, including a couple fun boxes that'll be opened up an 89 Fleer, 1990 Leaf are the two highlights of the boxes that I have to open up. But I've got a lot of the junk era boxes that I've recently purchased that I'm looking forward to opening up, and hope to get a chance to share with some of you. So please subscribe, follow my content, like this video. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. If there's anything that you'd like to see me open up, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. But I want to have some fun with this channel and just get to open up boxes, have some fun, and just relive some of my younger days. Another George Brett Member's Choice. Bob Zupsick again. Frank Viola. David Wells again. Steve Farr, Rex Hudler, and David Segui. And Lance Dixon to finish off. So, had a lot of fun here tonight. Like I said, it wasn't a high value set, not any major cards in here. But when you look at a stack of players you like, or pretty decent stars of this thick in a box, it was a pretty successful box. Again, nothing in here is going to make me rich, but I don't collect for the money. I collect for the entertainment and enjoyment value of it. If I happen to make some money off of it in the future, great. But I can't tell you the last time I sold any of my cards. So that's what the joy is for me, is just living out my past and enjoying some of the highlights of and seeing names that I haven't heard of in a long time. So again, thank you for tuning in. Again, I hope to see you soon. We'll be sharing some more content in the near future. So have a great night, everybody.